John, tell me about frozen custard.
All right.
Andy's frozen custard.
Yes. Well, this is. I'd like to think that this is from the Midwest because Midwesterners have found a way to cram more creamy, fatty goodness into an already sinful treat, I guess, which is ice cream, but with more cream in it. Frozen custard is just a really dense, creamy version of soft serve ice cream, I suppose. If you pick it up somewhere, it's kind of like that consistency. It's not like harder like ice cream. It's more like soft serve ice cream, but it's denser and very, very smooth and creamy because it has a lot of fat in it, I think. And Andy's is one of the chains. There's a bunch of chains around here that serve this stuff. Andy's is one of the better ones. You can either just get a flavor. They usually only have a limited number of flavors. So what they do, and maybe it's because of the way it's made, I guess, but they mix things in with it. So you get essentially what is like a milkshake style ice cream that is soft serve ice cream with stuff blended in it, like candy or caramel or some kind of topping.
Okay, so this is not custard that I know custard to be.
No, this is not. This is not an Englishman's custard by any stretch of the imagination.
No, this is something completely. I mean, this sounds really good.
Yeah,
I'm just looking at the list of states where they have it, and I have not been to any of those states, which is why I've never seen it.
Right. And there's some other places that are similar to this Andy's that have it. Some of them, there's some hamburger places that also serve this. Andy's happens to be just frozen custard, and you can get a 6-pack of little ones, which is what I was eating, a 6-pack of little ones and bring them home with you, or you can just sometimes in the summer when it's hot. We just go get in the car and they have a drive-through and we all grab a treat to kind of cool off in the summertime. It's kind of nice. And we actually got this during a snowstorm during the holidays. We should not have been out driving in this snowstorm. Our car is covered with salt and dirt from a snowplow that went by us as we were out driving getting this stuff. But it was good. We just needed to get out of the house. You kind of cooped up from the pandemic, and we had a couple of our kids home. So everybody was in close quarters, so it was time to get in the car and go pick up some Andy's.
Everybody, and I mean everybody in the general sense, appears to be back on Last FM as if it's 2007.
I know. I think Federico had something to do with this, I think, because he was wanting to track his music, and so he's been writing about it a little bit, and it's been popular in our Club Mac Stories Discord. So, yeah, I went and looked, and I hadn't really used it since I think it was 2015. I had a whole bunch of songs in 2015 that I had scrabbled, which I think is still a really weird and dumb word, but yeah, I've been using it myself, and you have too, right?
Yeah, it was. I'm trying to think. I did the same. I logged back in, and I had like 5 scrabbled tracks from like 2000 and I don't know. Well, I don't even know what year it is now. It was about 3 or 4 years ago, I think. And then I just hadn't used it because there just wasn't really any good solutions for doing it on the Mac and doing it on the phone and stuff like that. But now there's a lot more options. And I think what triggered it, and I think it's the same with you probably and Vitici and pretty much everybody else in the Discord, is like Apple Music's roundup is terrible.
Yep.
Like it's just awful. Like there's nothing there. Like basically all I got out of it was my top 5 artists, which I could have told you that anyway.
Right. Right.
I certainly didn't. I don't need Apple to tell me that.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely right. And it's funny because I was just yesterday, I was working on a story that I'm thinking about Apple Music and music discovery and some other things. And I was clicking around a lot in Apple Music, trying to find the things that I know are there, like curators. They have some of the music publications have curated playlists and things like that, and some of the Apple Music Radio, as it's now called, DJs are curators, and there you can follow music labels. There's a bunch of things like that in Apple Music, but they're so well hidden. It's very hard to find them, and the pages all load so painfully slow that I felt like I was wasting my entire afternoon just trying to get this basic information that I wanted to think about and talk about in this story. And it was just because I was clicking around in Apple Music, and it was driving me a little bonkers. Now, Last FM does. I think what you're right. I think what's really made the difference with Last FM, I had the same frustration with it years ago, which was that it was just too difficult. But there are more solutions on the Mac now. The one that I've been using is called Neptunes, which sits up in your menu bar and just reports everything back to Last FM, as well as just being kind of handy to have the artist and track information in your menu bar and having a few other controls like that built into it. And then the music app that I've been using with it is Marvis Pro, which is a really good iOS music app that can be set up to automatically track your playback too. So between those two things, it captures most of my music. I mean, I know there's some other apps that you can use out there too that'll do things, even like you can sit it up on the counter and it'll listen over, you play over speakers and it'll automatically recognize the tracks and then try to add them to your list and things like that. But between playback on the phone and playback on an iPad and playback on the Mac, that pretty much has me covered.
Yeah, so I have a pretty similar setup to you. The only difference is on the Mac I'm using Sleeve,
Right.
which is the one that it just gives you a little artwork in the corner. I think you can have it up permanently, but I just have it pop up when the track changes. And the only reason I'm not using Neptunes is because it requires Monterey, which I still haven't upgraded to yet. And then I'm using Marvis on my phone, and it's kind of nice just to get all of it, because that was the problem I had before. It's like on the Mac, it's always been, I wouldn't say easy, but you could always make it work.
Right.
Whereas on iOS, like Last FM have their app, and they're like, you can go in and say, "Oh, scrubble what I've done," but like I'm never going to remember to do that.
No, and I think it's not always been super accurate either. And I think there must have been something that changed in some of the APIs for Monterey that made these apps easier, because I've seen a couple of them pop up now all of a sudden, and there just weren't really other good solutions before. There have been solutions for putting song information in your menu bar, but I don't know. I mean, I'm not sure why all of a sudden there's a renaissance in this stuff, except that maybe people are becoming more attuned to finding new solutions, since Apple Music is a little bit rough in this area.
Yeah, which is kind of a shame, because it's slow, and we spoke about that last episode as well, which you mentioned in that, and I think it must have been 20 minutes after we finished recording, this article came out saying that they're like rebuilding it, and all of that kind of stuff. So, not that I haven't seen any of that yet, but that was the report at least.
I poked around about this because I was going to write a story about it, and I didn't, mainly because all the stories went back to a single source, which was a Twitter account with 0 followers, and that had been created within like the week before or something like that.
Oh no!
And so I can't tell you that the source was very reliable. So it was sketch enough that I didn't write about it, but I did download the latest Monterey beta onto my Mac Mini, and I haven't played with music on that machine a lot, but it does seem faster. Like they are maybe rebuilding the underpinnings to a degree, but it's a little hard to tell. It remains to be seen as far as I'm concerned, but I'd like to think that that's true. I'd like to think that something's happening. Apple bought Primephonic last year, which is a classical music service that they have said they're going to be building a separate app or features into the music app that are geared towards classical music fans. And so that to me, that's a good sign. I've also seen reports of people having difficulty on the Mac rating songs with the stars, and star ratings are a legacy feature of iTunes. And I mean legacy in the sense that it didn't ever go away, but it was one of those things that was part of iTunes, but Apple Music came along and took the simpler approach of just liking or unliking or disliking tracks. And I always thought star ratings might go away, and it looks like they might be messing with them under the hood, because people have had trouble getting star ratings to work. And so I do want it. There's a little bit of smoke here and there of things that point to underpinnings of music being monkeyed with behind the scenes by Apple. And I hope it's true. I mean, if there's people who are fans of star ratings, I hope you don't lose your star ratings. But all I'm saying is that there are signs that Apple's doing something under the hood. And I think it's time. I mean, when music came out as a separate app, I was really disappointed that it's really just a skin on the old iTunes app in a lot of ways. There's just decades of old software under there, and the store and browsing is all these web-based technologies that just don't work super well. I mean, I shouldn't, paint with too broad a brush about web technologies, but whatever they're doing, I don't know if it's web objects or what. I mean, Apple still has those floating around here and there. It's very slow to load all the different pages, whether you're searching for artists or going to one of the For You sections or browse or anything like that.
Yeah, and it's funny, we can say, I totally agree with you. It's like, yeah, they're clearly doing something bad, but like Spotify's app is Electron and web technologies, and it does not feel this slow.
Right.
It's like, you search and you just get results instantly instead of having to type. You press enter and maybe it doesn't search this time and you have to press enter again.
Yeah, I wonder if it's just like that whatever API they've got for the way that they've got this system built up for the catalog in the background is really the culprit, that, something is waiting on something somewhere, and maybe it's looking up the information to render the page or something. Who knows what it is? I mean, I know, for instance, the iTunes search API, which is not the same as the search that you have in the app itself, but that has been around forever and has never been, well, not never been touched, but hasn't been touched in eons. And I wouldn't be surprised if it goes away someday, other than it's the only way to get information about apps and songs and movies and TV shows and books through things like shortcuts, and for a lot of developers to use. Music Kit is now available for music, which is much better from what I understand, which is why you see a lot of apps like Marvis out there, which are really solid apps. They've got a lot deeper integration with Apple's catalog now because of Music Kit. And, when I wrote my app way back in the day, it was all based on the iTunes Search API. So I've done my hard time with the iTunes Search API, and it's really hasn't changed in the 6 years or so since I last worked on that.
Yeah, I've tried to do a few little projects with the search API and stuff like that, and it's never gone well. I've always just given up, and I thought, well, this is not going to do what I want, or it's too slow, or whatever.
And it's everything is like grafted onto it because it was originally for music, and so when you look for apps, I don't know if this is still the case, but at one point, the app author, the developer, was listed as the artist, and it's like it was basically music terminology used for apps, and you could if you dug deep enough into that API, you could really feel the music roots that were underlying it, and it's part of the problem with shortcuts too, is that the music integration there hasn't changed since the workflow days, I don't think, not meaningfully at least. And it's really just based on the iTunes Search API. They don't have the fancy Music Kit stuff. So you really only have access through the shortcuts actions to your library. So it's your actual music that you've downloaded into your library from the web or that you own. It's not like access to, you can't search for an artist and find their Apple Music page or something like that, or their entire catalog based on that. It's really rudimentary, and one of the areas that needs to change.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I guess we'll see in the next sort of few months or something if anything actually gets better, and maybe my searching on Apple Music will actually be a lot better in the future. We'll see. Meanwhile,
I've been digging into the Last FM API, Rob. I mean,
oh yeah,
it's a weird API. I got a little help from one of my kids on it, so I've got a developer account set up there, and I've got some ideas of things to build there that since Apple Music isn't delivering on the goods, maybe Last FM will be my route to having some interesting music shortcuts.
Yeah, I don't think anybody had the year of Last FM for 2022, but here we are. I think it's coming back.
Oh man!
So obviously I've been decorating my house and stuff, and I've been sort of planning my office. I haven't decorated it yet, but I've been sort of planning and working out if I need to buy new things and stuff like that. And I worked out that I could actually I complained to you that I couldn't get my microphone sort of plugged into the 12 South Stego because it needs the power and all that kind of stuff. But it turns out I can plug the microphone into my monitor and that will power it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so that meant I started moving some stuff around, like my boom arm and cables and stuff like that. The Blue Yeti is just too big. It is a absolute monster of a microphone. So I started looking around, and I found the Streamer Certified. Because that means business if it says that.
Gotta be good, serious business.
Streamer Certified Razor Siren Mini, and this is a tiny little microphone. It's adorable. It looks ridiculous on the end of my boom arm, especially compared to the Blue Yeti. But yeah, I wanted something that was a bit smaller so that I can just put it behind the monitor when I'm not using it. And I was sort of looking around and I saw this and I watched some reviews and listened to some sound tests, and it kind of sounds the same as my Blue Yeti as far as I can tell. I'm on a brand new microphone.
That's very nice. I am one of the things that I find very frustrating about Macs at times is that you never know what's going to happen when you plug something into a hub of some kind, whether it's a dock or a hub. And a lot of times those things are cameras and microphones. They don't play super well with going through some other sort of device. So you're more often than not better off just plugging directly into the Mac. It's good to hear that you can power from your monitor. I am sitting here, and this would probably drive a few people a little mad who are into recording, is I'm not connected to power, Rob. I just am going off battery because I know that this M1 MacBook Air can last more than enough time for you and I to have our chat. And then my microphone is going through a MixPre 3 made by Sound Devices, and then it's directly into my MacBook Air. So pretty simple setup these days.
Yeah, I mean, I've recorded a few episodes even on, my shabby old Intel Mac. There's been a couple of times where I've recorded on battery because, we don't do long shows.
Right.
But no, I don't get stressed about that. I know you wouldn't do it if you thought it was going to run out.
Yeah, no, I'm looking right now. See, we've been talking for a while. I've only used 8% of my battery, so there's that.
Nice.
Now it does leave. I need to make sure that my battery is charged up before I start. But usually my MacBook Air these days has been sitting on my desk plugged in all the time, so it's always at 100%. So I don't have to worry about that. One thing that I had for a while in this new location, I'm no longer recording in my basement after a flood last summer, so I am in a spare bedroom. And for a while up here, when I had the iMac from Apple, I had a 4K LG display up here sitting behind the MacBook Air, which was kind of nice because I made it a second monitor and I could put notes on there and make the text nice and big, even though it was kind of far away from me. Made it easy to see and gave me a little more screen real estate. Now I've just got the screen of the Air, and it's sitting up on a stand, so it's a little more at eye height, given that I'm talking into this microphone.
Yeah, it was it was really a revelation working out that I could plug the microphone in there. The biggest problem I had, and you've probably come across this in the past, is depending on the monitor, if you're using the sound output from a monitor, so you've got headphones or even speakers, you can't use the native media keys to make the volume go up and down.
Right.
And then I remembered, the people who make Audio Hijack, Rogue Amoeba, have many audio products that do many different things, and Sound Source does exactly what I want. So I can now have the headphones for us recording now coming out of the monitor, and I can use the native volume buttons to turn the volume up and down, and it's brilliant and I love it.
Yeah, that's a really good app. And the thing that I for a while got myself in trouble with, though, is having too many different apps that messed around with the sound sources and too many different things plugged into my Mac, so that it would get confused now and then. This simple setup where I've literally got nothing connected to this Mac other than a microphone and headphones it has worked really well and been really reliable. But that is a really nice solution to use SoundSource, because that's a really good app, and you can do things like you can set filters and all kinds of different sound things for different kinds of sources based on the app you're using and the source and things like that. It really gives you a lot of options.
Yeah, exactly. I haven't really messed about with it too much. My biggest one was that if I didn't use SoundSource, there was no way for me to turn the volume up and down from the monitor at all.
Yeah, I forgot that it does that.
Yeah, so like I had my headphones plugged in like I do now, but without SoundSource, it was like set at like what is essentially 100% volume, and it would have been way too loud for me to, us to have a conversation. So,
right.
So yeah, Mac Stories discount for the club.
There you go.
Don't forget to go and look.
Little pitch for Club Mac Stories Plus. They got 20% going on all the Rogue Amoeba stuff as a discount right now. I actually have a good new discount coming up, so people should stay tuned. I landed a new deal today, so this is just one of the many things I do. How I fill my days is looking for discounts for club members. So,
well, there you go. Yeah, so plus.club, and you can go and find out all the things and come chat with us in the Discord.
Yep. Talk about Last FM. There was a lot of discussion about Last FM there for a while. A lot of discussion about Obsidian, of course, too. There's a pretty heavy duty. There's a good developer crew in that crowd. So
it's good fun
chat about nerdy stuff.
And I didn't even I just want more people to chat with. So go sign up.
Yeah, definitely.
Cool. Well, I don't have anything else for this week. I don't think.
I think that's it for me too.
Cool. Well, we try not to leave it a month this time, and we'll maybe try in a couple of weeks.
Sounds good.
All right. Speak to you later.
Okay. Bye-bye.